We have breaking news out of the Middle East with regards to the war in Iran, and this story involves thousands of Kurdish fighters. Well, George Thomas joins us now. George, you're headed off to the region literally in a few hours, but tell us what's going on here in the Middle East.
Yeah, in the last couple of hours, Raj, I-24 News, based out of Tel Aviv, came out with this really shocking report that, as you said, thousands of Kurds have launched an offensive into Iran. If you look at, and people are thinking, wait, what? The Kurds? Where? How is this possible? You look at a map of Iran, and Iran is surrounded. You've got neighbors to the north. You've got Turkey, Armenia, Iraq on the west. You've got Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and Afghanistan to the east. And where this is reportedly happening is in the northern part of Iraq. If you remember, after the Iraq War, there was a fierce battle for the Kurds to have their sort of own homeland. And so they created what's called today Kurdistan. In fact, Kurds like to say that they're from the other Iraq, which is the northern part of Iraq. But the report from I-24 News is that thousands of Kurdish fighters have reportedly made an invasion, a ground incursion into Iranian territory within about an hour, hour and a half of those reports circulating all over the place. The Kurdish regional government came out vehemently saying that no Kurdish, Iraqi Kurdish soldier has crossed into Iran. So the question is, are we talking about Kurds who are from Iraq, or are we talking about Kurds who are from Iran? And so just to step up for a second, Raj, just to give you sort of the ethnic makeup of Iran, 60%, the overwhelming majority of Iranians are Persians. Between 8 to 10% belong to the Kurdish ethnic group. Then you've got Azeris, who are part of Azerbaijan, and then you've got the Baluch and the Arabs and a few other ethnic groups. These are all the ethnic groups that make up what's known today as Iran. The overwhelming majority of them are obviously Persians. But if this is true, this would mark a dramatic turning point in the war, and a new offensive in Israel and the United States war against Iran.
Well, obviously the details are coming in literally in real time, but some of the reports that I've seen says that Israel and the United States are arming and equipping these people. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah.
And then also let's talk about the Kurdish objective. Is this, hey, let's go in and help with the regime change, or is this, let's carve out a new Kurdistan, let's make our own country?
Yeah, fantastic. Two great questions, especially in this part of the region. You have to look at, again, if you go look at it historically, and if you look at a map of the region, like I said, there are between 8 to 10% of the Iranian population is Kurdish. And then just further west, you've got a huge population of Kurds in Iraq. You've got a significant group of Kurds in Syria. And then obviously between 8 to 10 million who live in Turkey. And for a very long time, Raj, the Kurds of the region have always aspired, always dreamt of a Kurdish homeland. And so the question can be asked, in the middle of this major military offensive against the second largest nation in the Middle East that has a very huge Kurdish population, are the Kurds attempting to take advantage of the chaos that you see today in Iran to pursue their own sort of ethnic objectives? Or are they, in essence, trying to put pressure, military pressure on the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps? Because right now they are focused on defending what's left of their command and control centers, both in Tehran, Isfahan, Qom, and the other major strategic cities across the country, as the Israelis and the Americans continue to pummel these various centers. So that's the question. We don't know know yet, but in the background, having talked to analysts and studied the region for a very long time, specifically Iran, I've been in Iran reporting on Iran. The whole issue, suddenly in the last 24, 48 hours, there's been talk, Raj, of this concept of balkanization. And I think we will continue to hear about this concept. And what is the balkanization of Iran? If you were to look back at shortly after the fall of the former Yugoslavia, the Yugoslavia was one entire nation, and then it broke up into different sovereign nations. You had Bosnia, Croatia, Serbia, Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro. All of those broke up into the Balkans. Now there is some talk, if this reporting is true, could we see the balkanization of Iran? And that would be absolutely, it would be very, very, very devastating for Iran, because you could potentially see these various ethnic groups competing against each other, potentially launching offensives against each other, and that could not bode well for the ongoing Israeli and American operations.
Well, George, as I said, you're literally catching a flight here in a few hours. So maybe one last question.
Yeah.
Let's try to go into the mind of President Trump and Pete Hegseth. What's the American objective in helping support this move?
Yeah. So again, we have to put this caveat. We don't know this. There's conflicting reporting about what is actually taking place. But again, I think I wouldn't be surprised, because look, if you were to look back in past military operations around the world, either carried by the Germans, the Brits, the Americans, whoever it is, there is no military operation that has led to regime change only on the basis of an air and sea campaign. You have to have boots on the ground, so to speak, if your goal isn't indeed regime change. Obviously, the U.S. and the Israelis, the U.S. especially, has been saying from the very get-go back on Saturday at 1:30 in the morning, this is about decapitating Iran's nuclear capacity, destroying their short-range and long-range ballistic missiles, devastating their drone operations. They've got tens of thousands of drones, and you've seen those drones attack our U.S. interests in the region. So no one is literally necessarily coming out to talk about regime change. But if you were to have regime change, you have got to have boots on the ground. There's no way you can just pummel the IRGC or the command and control center if you don't have people on the ground to go up against the military, the might of the IRGC. There are between 1 million to 1.5 million, maybe 2 million forces who make up the security apparatus of the Iranian regime. You've got the IRGC, you've got the Quds Force, the Basiji, and then the regular Iranian army. It's a huge army. How do you decapitate them while you continue to destroy the command and control center? So if this is true, that the United States is relying on the Kurds. Keep in mind, Raj, you will know your history in terms of military history. The Kurds have been a huge ally to the United States and to the Western coalition in the region for many years. They fought alongside our brave men and women when they went after ISIS, went after Al-Qaeda in the region. They've had a long history and a long relationship with the United States. The U.S. has trained what's called the Peshmerga, famous Peshmerga soldiers of the Kurds, very brave men and women. So if at all this is the goal, what you see here is that you have, for the first time, if these reports again are accurate, you have for the first time not just a military and a sea campaign by the US and the Israelis, but now the potential of ground forces through the aid of the Kurds. Again, we have to couch this as the caveat that we're getting conflicting reporting. But again, if the goal is regime change, you've got to find a way, short of putting US or Israeli troops on the ground, who are the partners in the region who could help create kind of tension in the region. One other point I'm going to make, if these reports are true, it does put tremendous pressure on the IRGC because they're trying to control what's left of their centers of command and control. And now that you have a potential operation in the western part of the country, it stretches their limits, right, to the edges of the country, and then again putting more pressure on the military and security apparatus of the regime.
Fascinating development, my friend. You know, I can't help but think if these reports are true, that Turkey's Erdogan will be very interested in this, as obviously he's been not the greatest friend of the Kurds. What do you think a Turkish reaction to this might be?
Yeah, it won't be even the phrase interesting. He would be very upset because Turkey and the Erdogan government has for several years gone after, as you said, rightly so, they have attempted to crush the Kurdish attempts to create an enclave, an independent country within Turkey. Again, it's not something that Ankara and Recep Erdogan will be welcoming if this news is true.
Well, my friend, have a safe flight and a safe trip. As always, George, God bless, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.